Welcome back to a very new episode of Anatomy Weekly. In today's episode, we will be discussing about the connective tissues. As it goes with the name, connective, these tissues must have something to do with connection or with communication. So what are these connective tissue? Connective tissue are groups of tissues which fill the interstices between specialized elements and serve to hold them together and support them. In one of our previous episodes, we said that the connective tissue can be compared to the packing material, like we are showing in this video. Tissue, as we know, are a group of cells meant for a specific function. Similarly, a connective tissue has its own cells, fibers, and a ground substance. Let us try to make it easier for you. If you consider this construction as the connective tissue, then we can see that it is made up mainly of three elements. The cells can be compared to the bricks, which are the building blocks. The fibers can be compared to the wire mesh, which maintains the contour and the structure of the entire tissue. And the ground substance can be compared to a cement, which holds these elements together.
Let us see what are the different types of connective tissue. The connective tissue can be again classified into the general connective tissue or connective tissue proper, fluid or hemopoietic connective tissue, specialized connective tissue, that is cartilages and bones, and embryonic connective tissue. While we are talking about the connective tissue over here, we will be discussing about the general connective tissue or the connective tissue proper. Now, in a general connective tissue, as we have already described, there are components which consist of the cells and the matrix. The matrix can again be divided into the fibers and the ground substance. Now, let us deal with these components individually. Now, as we move on to describe the first component, that is the cells of the connective tissue, the cells of the connective tissue again can be divided into those that are intrinsic component of the connective tissue and those that belong to the immune system but are commonly seen in the connective tissue. In the first group, that is the cells which are intrinsic to the connective tissue, these types of cells are also known as the fixed cells. The fibroblast and the fibrocytes, undifferentiated mesenchymal cells, adipocytes, pigment cells, and reticular cells are the fixed cells of the connective tissue. The free cells that belong to the immune system but they come secondarily to the connective tissue are the neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, B and T lymphocytes, plasma cells, macrophages, and mast cells. Let us start with the fibroblasts. Now, the fibroblasts are the most numerous cells in the connective tissue, and they are called fibroblasts because they are concerned with the production of the collagen fibers. Apart from collagen fibers, the fibroblasts also produce reticular and elastic fibers, and whenever they are associated with the production of reticular fibers, these fibroblasts are known as reticular cells. Now let us see how they appear. In tissue sections, these cells appears to be spindle-shaped and the nucleus appears to be flattened. However, when seen from the surface, these cells shows branching processes and branching pattern. The nucleus is large, euchromatic, and has prominent nucleolus. The amount of cytoplasm and organelles varies depending upon the activity of the fibroblast. Fibroblast becomes very active when there is a need to lay down collagen fibers, that is, during wound repair. When the need arises, these fibroblasts they divide and give rise to more fibroblasts. Once the fibroblasts are inactive, the cytoplasm becomes scanty, organelles are few, and the nucleus may become heterochromatic, and the inactive fibroblasts are known as fibrocytes. The fibroblasts, however, are regarded to be specialized cells and cannot convert themselves to other cell types. Another type of cell which resembles the fibroblast are also present in a connective tissue. Now these types of cells are known as myofibroblasts. The only difference of the fibroblast with the myofibroblast is that the myofibroblast is having actin and myosin filaments very similarly like the smooth muscle cells, and these types of filaments present in the myofibroblast perhaps helps in the retraction and shrinkage of a scar tissue. Undifferentiated mesenchymal cells is another type of fixed cells which is present in the connective tissue, and these are present in the embryonic connective tissue. The undifferentiated mesenchymal cells are small with slender branching processes that joins to form a fine network. It is from such a tissue the other more specialized form of cells like fibroblasts are formed.
Let's talk about the next type of cells, which are called adipocytes or fat cells. Although some amount of fat in the form of lipid molecules may be present in the cytoplasm of many cells, including fibroblasts, there are some cells which store fat in large amounts and they become distended with it. These are called fat cells, adipocytes, or lipocytes. Aggregation of these fat cells constitute adipose tissue. We'll talk about that later. The next type of cells are called pigment cells. These are most abundant in the connective tissue of skin, in the choroid and iris of the eyeball. These cells give the skin, the iris and the choroid their characteristic dark color. Differences in skin color in different individuals depends upon the number of pigment cells and in the amount of pigment present in these cells. The pigment cells are easily distinguished as they contain brown pigment in the form of melanin in their cytoplasm. Now, only a few pigment cells are capable of synthesizing melanin. These are called melanocytes, and they are derived embryologically from the neural crest cells. The remaining cells are those that have engulfed the pigment released by the other cells, and those are called chromatophores or melanophores. The pigment cells in the skin protect the deeper tissues from the effect of light, especially ultraviolet light. The darker skin in tropical climates is an obvious adaptation. Another type of cell found in the connective tissues is the reticular cells. A reticular cell is a type of fibroblast that synthesizes collagen alpha 1 3 and uses it to produce reticular fibers. These reticular cells provide structural support as they produce and maintain the thin networks of fibers which are the framework of most lymphoid organs.
Let's move on to the next component of a connective tissue, that is the fibers. Now, when we look at the fibers are the components which defines the overall architecture of the connective tissue. The density and strength of a connective tissue depends on its fiber content. Thus, more fibers means more dense and a strong connective tissue, and the vice versa. Now, let us move on to the fibers of the connective tissue very quickly. Starting first with the collagen fibers. As we see a collagen fibers under a light microscope, the collagen fibers can be seen to be there in bundles. The bundles often branch or anastomose with adjacent bundles, but the individual fibers do not branch. Now, these bundles of collagen fibers can resist considerable tensile force, that is stretching, without significant increase in their length, but at the same time they are pliable and can bend very easily. These bundles of the collagen fibers can be straight or wavy depending upon how much they are stretched. The bundles are made up of collection of individual collagen fibers which are about 1 to 12 micrometer in diameter. Now, if we look at these collagen fibers under electron microscope, each collagen fiber is seen to be made of fibrils that are 20 to 200 nanometer in diameter. With high magnification under electron microscope, Each fibril will show characteristics cross striations after every 67 nanometer. The collagen molecule or the tropocollagen of each of these fibril measures about 300 nanometer long. Further, a tropocollagen consists of 3 polypeptides forming a triple helix, and each of these triple helix consists of the amino acid glycine. Other 2 amino acids in each triplet are variable. Most commonly, these are hydroxyfluorine and hydroxylysine. Variations in the amino acid patterns will give rise to several types of collagen. When we look at the staining characteristics of a collagen fiber, the bundles of collagen fiber appears white with the naked eye, but in sections which are stained in hematoxylin and eosin, the collagen fibers stain light pink. With special methods like Masson's trichome, the fibers stain blue, and with another special stain which is known as the Van Jeyson's method, they stain pink. There are more than 20 types of collagen fibers which can be recognized depending upon the diameter of the fibers, the striations, and some other features. But here we will be discussing the important types of collagen fibers. There are 4 types. Type 1. Now the type 1 type of collagen fibers are of classical description, having the properties which we have already described. They are large with about 250 nanometer diameter and have a prominent cross striations. These types of collagen fibers are found in connective tissues, tendons, ligaments, bones, fascia, and aponeurosis. They are also present in dermis of the skin and in meninges. They form the fibrous basis of the bone and the fibrocartilage. The type 2 collagen fibers are again of 2 subtypes. The larger of these are about 100 nanometer in diameter, while the narrower fiber are about 20 nanometer in diameter. In type 2 collagen, striations are less prominent as compared to the type 1. The type 2 collagen fibers are found in hyaline cartilage, and the fine type 2 collagen fibers are present in the vitreous body. Type 3 collagen fibers are known as the reticular fibers, and we will be discussing the reticular fibers very shortly. Coming to the type 4, this type of collagen fibers consist of short filaments that form sheets. It is present in the basal lamina of the basement membrane of the epithelial tissue, and it is also seen in the lens capsule.
Let's discuss the reticular fibers. These fibers are actually a variety of collagen fibers, specifically the type 3 collagen fibers. They show periodic striations just like classical collagen fibers. However, they differ from the typical or type 1 collagen fibers in the following points. The reticular fibers are much finer than the classical collagen fibers. They are also uneven in thickness. These fibers do not run in bundles. They branch and anastomose with each other to form a reticulum or a network. The reticular fibers contain more carbohydrates than the type 1 fibers, and for this reason, they can be stained specifically by silver impregnation, which renders them black. Therefore, they are also called argentophil fibers. Reticular fibers provide a supporting network in many situations. These include organs like spleen, lymph nodes, and bone marrow, most glands, including the liver and kidneys. Another type of fibers, which are found in the connective tissues, is the elastic fibers. These fibers run singly, never in bundles. They branch and anastomose with other fibers. The elastic fibers are thinner than the collagen fibers. In some situations, the elastic fibers are thick, like in the ligamentum flava. Again, in some situations, they form fenestrated membranes, like in the walls of the large arteries, where they are found as the internal and the external elastic lamina. In contrast to collagen fibers, however, the elastic fibers are composed structurally of 2 components. a central core of elastin, and a surrounding network of fibrillin microfibrils. The elastin molecules are having covalent bonds through which they are linked to each other. Random distribution of glycine makes the elastic molecule hydrophobic and allows for random coiling of its fibers. This permits the elastic fibers to slide over one another or to be stretched and then recoil to their original state. The abnormal expression of the fibrillin gene FBN1 is linked to a condition called Marfan's syndrome. The patients of Marfan's syndrome can have hyperextensibility of joints.
The next component, that is the extracellular matrix of a connective tissue, is a complex and intricate structural network that surrounds and supports the cells within the connective tissue. It contains a variety of fibers such as collagen, reticular, and elastic. In addition, the extracellular matrix contains a variety of ground substance. These are proteoglycans, for example, aggregan and syndecan, multi-adhesive glycoproteins such as fibronectin and laminin, and glycosaminoglycans like damatane sulfate, keratan sulfate, and hyaluronan. Even though we have compared the extracellular matrix with the cement, so the function of the extracellular matrix is comparatively a little complex. So apart from providing mechanical and structural support to the tissue, the extracellular matrix provides tensile strength to the tissue. It functions as a biochemical barrier, plays an important role in regulating metabolic functions of the cell. It anchors cell within tissues through cell to extracellular matrix adhesion molecules, provides pathway for migration during wound repair. Recent studies indicate that the extracellular matrix exerts a regulatory effect on the embryonic development and cell differentiation. The extracellular matrix is capable of binding and retaining growth factors, which in turn modulates cell growth. It also influences the transmission of information across the plasma membrane of the connective tissue cells. Thus, the current view of extracellular matrix components, that is the fibers and the ground substance molecules, is that they form a dynamic and interactive system that informs cells about the biochemical and mechanical changes in their extracellular environment.
There you go. Now that you have understood about the different components of the connective tissue, let us see how these components are arranged in different types of connective tissues. Let us begin with the loose connective tissue. In loose connective tissue, we find the predominance of collagen fibers. They are arranged in different directions and form a loose fiber meshwork. The collagen fibers will be sectioned in various planes and the transverse ends may be seen. The fibers are acidophilic and they stain pink with eosin. Some amount of elastic fibers are also present in the loose connective tissue. Fibroblasts are the most abundant cells in the loose connective tissue and they may be again sectioned in various planes so that only parts of the cell may be seen. A typical fibroblast shows an oval nucleus with sparse chromatin, lightly acidophilic cytoplasm with few short cell processes. Also present in the loose connective tissue are blood cells such as neutrophils, eosinophils, and lymphocytes. The fat or adipose cells appear characteristically empty with a thin rim of cytoplasm and peripherally placed flat nuclei. This is because most of the volume of the cell is occupied by the fat globule. The loose connective tissue is highly vascular.
Where firmer support and more strength are required, the dense irregular connective tissue replaces the loose type. The collagen fibers are numerous and densely packed, typically found in bundles and sectioned in several planes because they course in various directions. In dense connective tissue, the fibroblasts are often found compressed among the collagen fibers.
The next type of connective tissue that we are going to discuss is the dense regular connective tissue. Dense regular connective tissue is typically present in ligaments and tendons. Here, the collagen fibers are arranged in compact parallel bundles. Between the collagen bundles are thin partitions of looser connective tissue that contain parallel rows of fibroblasts. When the tendon is stretched, the bundles of collagen fibers become straight. When the tendon is relaxed, the bundles of collagen fibers become wavy. It is interesting to note that dense irregular connective tissue partitions are present between bundles of collagen fibers in the dense regular connective tissue. These are called interfascicular connective tissues. As we can clearly see in the picture, this interfascicular connective tissue also contains abundant fibroblasts, numerous blood vessels which supply the connective tissue cells. Point to be noted, the dense regular connective tissue and the dense irregular connective tissue are both characterized by abundance of collagen fibers. The difference is the orientation of the fibers, and this has a direct link with the place where the tissue is found and its function. Dense regular connective tissue is found in structures like tendons and ligaments, where the direction of force upon the tissue is unidirectional. These bundles of collagen fibers are oriented along the direction of the force which the tendon or the ligament has to bear. On the other hand, dense irregular connective tissue is found in structures like dermis of the skin, the periosteum of bones, the connective tissue surrounding the muscles, etc., where the force acting on the tissue is multidirectional. As a result, we don't find any regular arrangement of the collagen fibers in a dense, irregular connective tissue. Let us move on to the next type of tissue. If you recall, we had talked about adipose cells as one of the components of connective tissue earlier in the class. Large accumulation of these adipose cells are organized into adipose tissue. Adipose cells are closely packed and separated by thin strips of connective tissue septa, in which we find compressed fibroblasts, small arterioles, venules, nerves, and capillaries. Individual adipose cells appear to be empty because the fat was dissolved by the chemicals used during the routine histologic preparation of the tissue. The adipose cell nuclei are compressed to the peripheral rim of the cytoplasm.
The last but not the least is the embryonic connective tissue. The embryonic connective tissue resembles the mesenchymal tissue or mucous connective tissue, which is loose and irregular connective tissue. Now, this type of connective tissue is found in the umbilical cord of a newborn, and also it can be seen in the vitreous of the eyeball. Now, if you see the picture over here, the histological sections of the embryonic connective tissue consist of the fibroblasts, which are numerous. The collagen fibers are found in between the fibroblast, some coming in close contact with the fibroblast. The embryonic connective tissue is very vascular. There are capillaries which are lined with endothelium and filled with red blood cells and are visible in the ground substance. If you look at in a higher magnification, primitive fibroblasts are seen as large branching cells with cytoplasm, prominent cytoplasmic processes, and ovoid nucleus, and with fine chromatin and one or more nucleoli. The collagen fibers over here are very widely separated.
And that's it. That was all we brought to you in today's episode about connective tissues. Stay tuned to Anatomy Weekly to keep learning with each video. We'll see you next time. Thank you.